How we doing, folks? Welcome into Week 3 Postgame. I'm Jason Blakeney, and this is Brady Aymond. And Brady, bunch of good games tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, it's just really great prep football. And if this is what we have in store for us over the next couple weeks with district play getting underway next week, man, it could be a fun season.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's kind of a precursor to district starting in the 6A, and then we got some 5A districts starting too. And we had at least 3 very good games, one overtime game. A couple of them came down to some last second plays. Just a lot of fun this week.
Yeah, we'll start with the one I was at, game of the week. Pine Forest getting a 22-21 win over Niceville. Pine Forest trailing 21-7 late in the third quarter, gets a touchdown, goes for 2, and I asked Jerry Pollard after the game, what are you doing going for 2 at that point? And he said, didn't want to go to overtime.
Yeah.
There's no way. That team's too good to go to overtime. They end up eking out a win in the last minute. They had a last chance, Niceville did. Comes up short. Pine Forest gets the win. And if you don't think that means something to that team, you should have seen their reaction after the game. It was like they just won a state championship. That was an important game. They're really, using that game as a springboard going into district.
Well, they kind of need that. They need to see what they can do against a team that's from this area. They've beaten 2 out-of-state teams, so now they kind of see where they really stack up and kind of where they are right now. 3-0, one of the only 2 3-0 teams in our area now. West Florida, the other one, beat Tate on Friday night, 42-7. The good news for Tate is that they finally scored. They scored early in the first quarter. The bad news is they didn't score again, and West Florida ends up pulling out a 42-7 win. They're 3-0. We'll say this every week as long as they keep winning for the first time in school history because they haven't ever been anywhere near this as far as success is concerned for that football team.
Right, and I believe the only year they ever made the playoffs was 2004, the Ivan shortened season, and they actually had a losing record and went to the playoffs. So very impressive start for them. An impressive rebound for Pace this week. They go to a game that you were at, and you watched them come from behind to beat Navarre. Yeah,
and both teams have been coming off tough losses the week before, and Pace was down 23 to 14 in this game, and it looked like Navarre was about to kind of put it away, and then all of a sudden Pace kind of woke up. Patrick Maddox, who didn't play last week, who was out with a concussion and didn't play in the Niceville loss, he just caught fire in the second half. Pace gets a touchdown pass from him. With 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter to basically win it. But there was a little stretch there where Pace scored to kind of make it 23-21, and then they tried a little pooch kick, like to the middle of the field, just a little sky kick. And Navarre players are kind of confused. One guy goes up to get it, he jumps up to get it, it goes through his hands. Pace gets the ball, and like I said, a few plays later they score. Navarre gets down at the end of the game. They get down to the 10-yard line, very reminiscent of last week where they had a chance at the end. They get down to the 10-yard line. And a play at the goal line, a pass intended for Brad Leggett is broken up by Austin Hauser, and Pace ends up pulling out the big win after the tough loss last week. So big way for them to bounce back going into that Pine Forest game this week.
Right, and that's 2 tough losses for Navarre. But you look for them to rebound.
They have Niceville.
Yeah, and that could be for the district. Yeah. Strange, that first game could be for the district championship.
Exactly.
Their first tough loss came against Pensacola High. Pensacola High this week continues to roll, goes out, beats Catholic. That final score 34-13, an impressive win for PHS. Jalen Spencer returns a punt for a touchdown, throws for a touchdown, runs for a touchdown. He was Mr. Everything tonight. PHS is on a roll.
Yeah, they are. And the thing about them is they need to get healthy because they're kind of banged up right now after that brutal stretch because districts starts for them this week too. So
right, Escambia trailing 21-7 going in the fourth quarter, comes back, scores 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to push to overtime, get a field goal, force a fumble, win at 24-21. Great overtime win for them.
Big overtime win for Escambia, and they've gone through a lot. Last week, I guess, a week and a half now. With the death of one of their former players. And then Friday night had a scare right towards the end of the game. Deshaun Sellers, one of the players, had to be taken off on a stretcher, and Escambia ends up getting a win. That's something that they need too. They were 0-2 and not looking really good, so they got a win going into the district. They got some winnable games here. Let's see if they can kind of get on a roll right now.
Right, and we'll update Sellers' condition as soon as we know what it is, taking the Sacred Heart Hospital. We hope that he's okay. Maybe he'll be able to get back next week. Jay, on the road, another tough one. They fall to Sneeds, 33-7. Another team on the road falls. Chipley beats Northview. That's a real surprise for me.
Well, it is, but we talked about it in the preview. Chipley's a big school. You know, they played in Catholic's district last year, so they're one of the bigger rural schools. So this is a good, this was a good barometer, so to speak, for Northview. Kind of give them an idea of where they need to be. And let's not forget, it doesn't matter what happens in these first 4 or 5 weeks. What matters is those last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. That's what matters the most, is how you're doing at the end of the year. This is a time where you're making corrections and everything.
Right, and if Northview has to beat Chipley, they'll have to do it in the playoffs. They did that last year, lose to Freeport, come back and beat them in the playoffs. So it's not like all hope is lost there. Washington goes over to Choctaw and just gets pummeled at 33-0. They just can't get that offense on track.
No, they can, and defense has been good for them this year so far, but then they go on the road and don't fare very well. A team whose defense has been very good for them this year, offense hasn't shown up, is Milton. Lose another one 12-6. Last week lost one 7-6. So 3 games they've given up a total of 33 points, and they're 1-2. I mean, most coaches would love to have only given up 33 points through 3 games, and they're 1-2 right now, just because their offense is really struggling right now to find consistency.
Right, and that's one of those teams, though. Like you say, it doesn't really matter what happened the first couple weeks. We know they have the defense. Paul Young's back now. Yeah. He got his first playing time this week. He found Isaiah Jones. Isaiah Jones, a phenomenal receiver. If they get the ball in his hands, he can take it to the house. So look out for Milton. If they can get that offense on track, they get a little consistency. Paul Young gets in his rhythm. They could be a team to watch as district play starts next week. Speaking of next week, we'll go over our predictions on Thursday. Brady and I tie again. So that's 3 weeks in a row, 3 ties. Then we'll preview everything for you on Friday. We'll wrap it up for you just like this on Saturday. So thanks for joining us. I'm Jason Blakeney. This is Brady Aymond, and we will see you next week.